if our life isn't perfect, if everything isn't just perfect, then there's some deep-seated or some dissatisfaction or some gnawing awareness that things aren't just quite right, or I have different kinds of problems or issues or things like that. So it's sort of almost like you have to start from a place of humility, kind of like, okay, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for answers. Well, if we had all the answers, we wouldn't need to look. We wouldn't need teachers or anything like that. Again, I'm stating the obvious, but this is the starting point, which is really important. So that's the point. The basic point is life is not perfect. Duh, right? But actually, it's pretty profound, because we have to start with getting really honest. So everyone has some level of stress, anxiety, frustration, deep-seated insecurities, fear of death, fear of, uncertainty. So Buddhism is about addressing those things. Meditation is merely a tool to kind of get to that place, right? And but to understand, have a context. I always say it's really about the context. It's really about understanding, kind of getting that aerial view, that big picture of how things are. We need that. And the motivation, if it's just idle curiosity, no good. It's not going to take you anywhere. But if it is some place inside ourselves that we can be in touch with, that's like, I need something. Something is missing. Something, I don't have all the answers, and life is not perfect, and it doesn't just work smoothly all the time. There's got to be some answer, some better way, or some solutions or something. I think we need to start from that place, actually. And hey, we're in the 21st century in America. We have all the creature comforts. We have distractions and entertainment and pretty much everything we could want, at least on the material level. So that part's all sort of taken care of. But even though we have all those things, there's still that, again, that sort of deep gnawing feeling of it's just not good enough to have material things, to have a kind of an easy life or whatever. So yeah, starting with some kind of acknowledgement like that, then that's the basis, right? Buddhism is, I always say, it's very simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. It's simple. It reduces everything down to the fundamental realities of existence, which is nothing lasts forever. Everything is in a state of flux and change. So we say everything is impermanent. Everything is moving, changing. That's important, right? And everything is somehow connected to other things. There's an interdependence. There's causes and effects. Things happen for reasons. Nothing is just random in this universe. And so those are sort of the basic starting point. And then it's easy to get into further layers of sort of philosophical analysis of the human condition and how life is. But that's starting at the beginning, kind of, that's just kind of our starting point.
Yeah, I think that the word spiritual, kind of like that gnawing, I don't know if it's the greatest word, but that yearning was like what you were talking about. A lot of people construe that as spiritual, like what spirituality, looking for spirituality outside of tangible things.
So as far as I'm concerned, we can take that word spiritual or spirituality and just throw it in the wastebasket.
Yeah, I don't like it either, but I was just, it's
but
not a great word.
The words are convenient, but they're also mistaken. They don't lead us to the truth. Usually they lead us away from the truth. So we can forget about words, but we can go, okay, so fundamentally everything is mediated through our mind. And what really Buddhism is, it's not talking about Buddha or some God or anything like that. It's about being very intimately and directly relating to our own minds. and understanding our mind and how our mind mediates and kind of creates the quality of our life and our emotional experience as we navigate through the world. It's obviously it's through our senses, and then it's the concepts and the understandings that we formulate. The deeper question is, are those accurate concepts? Are those accurate understandings of how the world is and how we are? So the unasked question usually is, who am I? Yeah, we sort of don't even bother with that. And yet that's the heart of, you could almost say that's the heart of Buddhism, is getting to the essence of who one is, what one is, on the deepest of levels. So as we sort of peel away the layers of being an American, being a 21st century person, being in a male body, having a certain ethnicity, or, you know, all the things that we identify with, we can peel those away and go, well, those are not really who I am on the most deepest fundamental level. Those are just identifications that we've taken on. And but if we peel those away and keep asking, well, that's not really the essence of this me, this self that clings to life, that is afraid of heights or afraid of, you know, whatever, that wants to preserve itself, in other words, and strive for things and get recognition or find love or have enough money or whatever the things are that drive and motivate us as people. You know, we need to get prior to those things. So meditation on the deepest sort of level is peeling away all those layers and staring face to face with what we could just say, what is, very simply, what is, what remains. And we have to dispense with intellectual understandings or formulations or concepts or things that we've read or heard, because this is a journey of self-discovery, of finding out for oneself. That's the only place that confidence comes from, is knowing for oneself. And meditation gives us that opportunity, because we can let go of distractions. We can start to focus the mind and not get jerked around by random thoughts or storylines, different narratives, different dramas, wishful thinking, fantasies. When all that stuff drops away and we are in a place that's present, content, meaning not needing something, and then looking clearly and then receiving what is, that's meditation. So as Westerners, I would say probably most meditators that are Westerners, trying to solve a puzzle, trying to figure something out, you know, trying to come up with the answer or the solution. But actually meditation is not at all like that. It's not passive, but it is a kind of balanced, open state where you're not letting your preconceived notions determine what you find or see or discover or realize or have insights to. So in the Tibetan tradition, in the tradition of the lineage that I'm trained in, we start with learning how to let the mind calm down, stay clear, stay focused, stay present, and keep coming back to the present as we invariably will get sidetracked and distracted, right? That's just what the mind does. It jerks us around. You know, we're like a puppet and it's pulling our strings like a marionette. And happy thoughts will make us happy, and sad thoughts will make us sad, and anxious thought will make us anxious. Well, there's no mastery in that. There's no self-fulfillment in that. That's actually a state of being victimized. So in a sense, we're actually victimized by our own thinking and our thoughts. and we're so clever and we're so educated and we're, modern people. And we have all these tools and access to all this information and so on, and so that can make us feel very smug, proud and smug, and even sometimes arrogant, or, I know it all and I have, but again, as I said in the very beginning, really what Buddhism is about finding a kind of confident humility that's genuine, that's honest, and is dignified and respectful of the individual. So there's nothing competitive in it. There's no concern about what others people are doing. It's just completely about self-discovery, I guess you could almost say, having a real emotionally mature relationship with oneself. You can almost say it like that. And so that's what we do. Meditation teaches patience because, as in some traditions, they call it the monkey mind, the mind that runs all over the place and chases thoughts, just like a monkey or an out of control animal. So we learn to train ourselves. I was saying patience, because the mind wants to keep jerking us around. And one of the things the mind does not want to do is be sort of calmed down and tamed. It likes its sort of freedom. And so the patience is for virtually everyone that learns how to meditate. We don't want to meditate. We love hate, right? We like it. We think we like it. But when it comes down to sitting there, our mind will tell us, you're wasting your time. Why are you doing this? I've got better things to do with my time. There's all these urgent things calling for my attention. And to learn to just let those thoughts kind of not throw you off base, and work through it, work through that impatience. That's really the starting point. Those are the muscles, the mental muscles that we cultivate through meditation, at least in the early stages, where, again, we don't react. We learn to not react to thoughts. Again, those thoughts are trying to get you, they're trying to, as I said, jerk you around. Those thoughts are out to get you. Your mind is a trickster. And wisdom will come as we develop the ability to not react and realize that we are not this reactive mind. We actually are this sort of calm, clear pool of awareness. And that's kind of where we're, in some sense, you could say that's where we're heading towards in this journey of meditation. And this is a many-year journey. This is not something you accomplish in a few weeks or months. That's, again, patience means you're in it for the long haul. It's a process, and it gets refined and more subtle. And as we move through this journey, other roadblocks and obstacles and distractions will be thrown in our face. If you're in for the long haul to become an accomplished meditator, you just have to take that sort of long-term perspective and go, this is it. This is what my life is. This is what's going to really, truly give me some kind of quality and some kind of maybe bedrock core awareness. The calm eye of the hurricane when everything is swirling around us. Can we stay steady in the eye of it? And so very, very important. And again, motivation is really the key thing. So what motivates us? Well, we could sort of say there's a couple things. If we're motivated just by, I want to show off my abilities to others, that's not going to cut it. If we, there's different levels of motivation, obviously. In the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism, one of the principal motivations is realizing, as I said in the very beginning, I suffer. I have problems. My life's not perfect. I have stresses and anxieties and disappointments and frustrations and all these things. But when we get our sort of head out of the ground and we stop for a minute and look around, we realize this is the human condition. This is what's going on for everybody out there. I'm not just alone in this. Everybody is doing their best and muddling through and making compromises and suffering in their own ways. And that's pretty powerful when we really start to get that. And in Tibetan Buddhism, we spend a lot of time actually contemplating these kinds of things. When I said it in the beginning, it's about context. This larger vision and understanding that we're sort of all in this. It's pretty important because we don't want to get into sort of this isolated stance of this is just me, I'm in this alone, and I, me, mine, as George Harrison said. That's what leads to greed. That's what leads to a greedy mindset. That's what leads to prideful mindsets. That's what leads to jealousy. It's like me against the world, or something like that. So when we start to think about the inconceivable big picture, meaning we're not alone, our situation is not all that unique, that's a form of awakening, that thought, and a motivation, and a perspective that's actually extremely important, because that can bring a wind into your sails when you realize there's a lot going on. And if I do nothing, by default, nothing will get solved or improve. If I really want to make a difference in my life and maybe potentially in the life of others, that's a motivation. Like, oh, I want to be a force for good. I want to do something positive. I want to have a good life and a good death. That's important motivation. And when the going gets tough and we're bored, because you'll get very bored when you meditate. If you're meditating properly, you should almost get bored. You should experience that. That kind of motivation is what keeps us going, keeps us coming back day after day after day. I also tell people don't give up short of the goal being whatever, some kind of, let's say, really satisfied state of awareness and understanding and realization. But people do give up. Westerners give up all the time. They take a course in meditation or something, and they go, oh, I tried that. It didn't really do anything for me. Well, we're in a culture of instant gratification. We expect quick, easy results. And this ain't that. So having sort of a more mature outlook that things take time and patience, and important things are worth putting energy into, and then having the willingness to go, okay, it's not going to be a smooth sailing all the time, an easy glide. I'm going to need to put some effort into this. I'm going to need to work at this. I'm going to need to make kind of a real commitment. Again, this is all foundational stuff, really important, really important. So that's all introductory stuff, Tal. I'm just kind of giving a little bit of background here. But this is sort of, again, the context that then we can lead to actual techniques of meditation and stuff. So at this point, I've been blabbing for a while. You may have some questions if you would like to ask.
I think, one of the things I wanted to say when you were talking about like the monkey mind and how it could actually be difficult to want to do it because it could be boring, or it could be difficult in general to sit still and be with your thoughts. But I've never been through a meditation session where I didn't come out of it feeling like I did something good for myself.
Yeah, good.
Never, not once. What else did I want to ask you? Let's say.
That was not exactly a question.
No, it wasn't. It was a statement of what I was thinking when you said something. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm joking.
Yeah. George Harrison, is that Beatles?
George Harrison, yes, was one of the Beatles,
I mean mine. Okay, I was just trying to make sure I got the reference there.
the Fab Four.
That's true.
But I'm more apt to quote the Grateful Dead than the Beatles, but
Oh, really?
that's another
Okay.
story. Let's leave that one behind.
Yeah, right. So like the human condition and I suffer, I think that hits home for me. That's interesting. If you can like elaborate a little bit more on that aspect of it, that would be cool.
Well, again, if we just scrutinize our own situation, and we're really honest, we realize we harbor inner fears and anxieties. What if I get cancer? I'm going to die. I'm going to leave my loved ones. I'm not getting everything I want out of life. Life's a struggle at times, or I'm afraid of, death, which is sort of pretty universal, or or on some subconscious level, we all have different kinds of neuroses or anxieties, stresses, things like that. That's what we mean by suffering. It doesn't mean you get a splinter in your finger and it hurts like hell. That's a very mundane kind of suffering. I'm talking about emotional and intellectual suffering, or your lover leaves you, or you don't have a lover and you want one. I mean, there's a trillion varieties of what we generically call suffering, but it basically just means dissatisfactoriness. That there's that, again, that gnawing feeling. There's not too much that needs to be said about it. Humans have to work hard, and then we can end up losing everything we've worked for. So life is fraught with frustrations, or maybe we're fortunate. We're born here in the United States, like I said, in the 21st century, we've got creature comforts, but it's a fine line. We're born here. Who knows why? We can throw around concepts and words like what's your karma to be born here, but in a different life or in different circumstances, you could have been born in Afghanistan, or in Haiti, where there was just a earthquake and hurricane. So we're fortunate, but in many, many, many ways, and we should appreciate that. But we also should appreciate the fact that we should not take anything for granted, because nothing lasts. Goes back to that very early statement I said. Core principle of Buddhism is everything's changing all the time. So the high go low, the low go high. You have money, then you don't have money. You have loved ones, then they die or leave or get sick, or you die or leave or get sick. You get material things that you really love, like a new car, and then it gets scratched in the parking lot and you freak out. It's like nothing is, so we have to take everything, I think, with a grain of salt, so to speak, and have this understanding, this perspective that nothing lasts, nothing is permanent. And that's really, really important. If we get that deeply, then we're not going to be disappointed when things change or seemingly are out of our control. So meditation is really uncovering our original mind before we were born, before we were acculturated, before we were genderized or ethnicized or whatever, before we have this personality that's formed. Prior to that, the pure mind, you could almost say, the mind that is stripped of all those other things, that's a mind of openness, and you could say contentment, and it's not subject perhaps to stress and anxiety and worries and hopes. That's the idea. So maybe that addresses your question.
Yes. Is it that the pure mind knows that the depth of reality, so to speak, like that it is actually in the end of it all, that it is actually perfect, that we're
Yes.
just perceived that it's not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the fun of it too, I would imagine, right?
Well, fun is a funny word, but it's the sort of the joy or happiness. I had a student once, I was teaching a big class, and he said, Lama Dawa, are Buddhists allowed to have fun? And I said to him something to the effect of, well, yeah, but fun is not the point. It's happiness. They're not the same thing, right? we want to be happy. We want to have some kind of sense of just happiness, contentment, satisfaction, confidence. We're not after being entertained. And meditation can be entertaining, but if you get trapped and seduced by the entertaining quality of the meditation, you've missed the point entirely, and your meditation will crash and burn. I mean, it won't prosper, so to speak.
Yeah, the idea of impermanence is also very interesting to me, of keeping it present-minded, that the idea of impermanence. I think a lot of people do believe they'll live forever, so that idea definitely,
Well,
even though we all know death and taxes, the idea of living forever is something, because there's the ideology of heaven and God forbid hell, but which is also eternal, in ideologies, but it might be what perpetuates this notion in human beings, or maybe there's something that predates that, like something more innate than that. I don't know.
I think human beings are very good at being naive.
Yeah.
Or the other term we could say is in denial.
Yeah, denial.
So again, the idea is that's a form of being kind of, you could almost say, asleep. If we're in denial, we're asleep in a sense. And even the root Sanskrit word for Buddha has a connotation of awakening. And it means really awakening to how things actually really are. And that's separate, again, from what we think things are like. We don't want to, people say, well, I believe this and I believe that. We all hear that. I hear that all the time from people. Oh, I believe this, I believe that. My response is, the goal is not to believe anything. It's to know. You don't have, believing is like a form of kind of like wishful thinking. It's sort of like whistle in the dark because you're afraid. That's not what sort of we're after. Anybody has, and everybody has beliefs, but knowing, that confident knowing, which from one's direct experience, that's beyond words. It's not something that's easy to articulate. You can talk around it and about it and use metaphors and all this stuff, but just knowing how things are and knowing sort of who and what you are, what the mind is, that's a form of, you could say, realizations that occur. I don't want to talk about enlightenment. That's a little bit sort of lofty at this point and presumptuous, but that's actually part of the motivation too, is knowing that we have a sort of a perfect, as you used that word earlier, a perfect or enlightened pure state, which is sort of our true state. It's our birthright. It's who and what we actually really are. Knowing that exists, that is truly sort of available to us, that's the motivation. It's like, wow, we have to know there's a goal. If there's no goal, it's all pointless. Who wants to go out on the soccer field and kick the ball around if you're not going to score something, if you're not going to get a goal, if you're not going to win or accomplish something, so to speak. So this is the goal. The goal is to sort of transcend suffering, you could almost say. There's a lot of ways to talk about it, different sort of levels of talking about it. But some kind of whatever level we're at, that's what we use as the fuel. That's the motivation to keep us going. And it's like a big experiment. Oh, what can I accomplish in this life in terms of controlling or understanding my mind, of penetrating all these sort of confused beliefs about reality? Can I really get to a place of really seeing for myself, really knowing? That's the goal. That's the motivation. That's exciting. I think you used that term too. It's actually, there should be some sense of joyful enthusiasm, like, wow, I get to participate in this amazing human experiment of reaching my full potential as a human being, which is not available through getting a PhD or, working on Wall Street or whatever. That's not the pinnacle of human achievement. Those are lesser levels. But to really sort of achieve self-mastery, you could almost say, and learn how and accomplish the ability to actually benefit oneself and others. Ooh, that's a pretty huge thing. And if we realize that that is actually possible, that it's available to us, when we really get that, it's almost like once you really realize that, how can you do anything but strive for that? And most people are daunted. It's too daunting. It's too hard. It's too pie in the sky. I could never do it. Well, if we talk ourselves into it like that, then don't even bother trying. Don't start. There's no point probably. But if we really contemplate and think about what is my potential, and what have others done in the past that shows that